When it comes to fully electric pickup trucks, electric startup company Rivian was actually the very first manufacturer to come to market, beating out legacy brands like Ford, General Motors, and of course Ram with the introduction of the original 2022 Rivian R1T. Now, of course, being a new electric vehicle startup company, Rivian started from scratch when developing this R1T pickup truck, which means it rides on a fully dedicated EV architecture. It offers a choice between 3 different battery sizes and up to 4 electric motors, the first vehicle in production to actually have 4 electric motors if you guys go for the quad motor, which is the one that I'm showing you here. Now, of course, I've already had a chance to drive a lot of the legacy brands like the Ford F-150 and the GMC Hummer EV. However, I've never had a chance to actually show you guys the all-new Rivian R1T until now. And I'd like to thank my friend Tori, who lives locally to me, who actually owns this vehicle, because I've been trying to get a press car from Rivian. It just hasn't happened. And this particular one that I'm showing you here is a 2023 R1T Launch Edition. Now, mechanically, it's practically similar to a 2024 model, but with up to 835 horsepower and just under 290 miles of range. This promises to be an electric sport truck for the future. So for those of you who are looking for the ultimate electric truck that can also go off-road, how does the brand new 2024 Rivian R1T stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the exterior styling of the R1T, let me tell you, this truck has been on the market for a little over 2 years, and it still turns a lot of heads. I thought I'd pop the hood and show you guys if this vehicle has a frunk. Now, as you expected, there's no engine, so you do have a nicely sized frunk, although it's not quite as big as what you're gonna get from some of the competitors. Now, underneath the power opening and closing hood, you're gonna find around 11 cubic feet of storage space under here. And 11 cubic feet is actually pretty good. I mean, this is the size of most trunks that you're gonna find in like a compact sedan. There's also a little bit of an underfloor storage area here where you can see there's some areas where you can store the mobile charger, a couple of other bags and whatnot. There's some LED lighting in here. There's also a little button to escape the frunk area if you happen to be trapped in here. But overall, this is still a nice place to store items that's covered, that's lockable. Although just keep in mind, something like the F-150 Lightning offers around 15 cubic feet of storage space. Now, while we're under here, let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain specs, because this model here is the Launch Edition, which means it comes with the quad electric motors, which means there are 4 electric motors at each individual wheel, and it draws its power from a 135 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. That is technically known as the large battery pack. It's the only battery pack you can get on the quad motor version. Rivian says with the 4 electric motors, this model will deliver up to 835 horsepower and 908 pound-feet of torque. Essentially, the 2 front motors produce 415 horsepower, while the 2 rear motors produce 420 horsepower. It all goes out through a single-speed reduction gear transmission. And of course, this truck has all-wheel drive as standard, although it's a true torque vectoring all-wheel drive because it has 1 motor at each individual wheel that can ascend power appropriately. Now, Rivian claims this truck should get to 60 in about 3 seconds. We'll hook it up to our timing equipment and see what we can actually get and see if this is the quickest accelerating truck we've ever tested. It has a top speed of just shy of 112 miles an hour, and this is a pickup truck. It still will tow a maximum of 11,000 pounds. It'll haul up to 1,760 pounds of payload in the bed. And even though this truck is small on the outside for a truck standards, this thing weighs as much as like an F-350 Super Duty at just over 7,100 pounds. The battery pack on this model here with the all-terrain tires delivers up to 289 miles of range. But let's go ahead and close up the hood, which you can do so by pushing a button right underneath here, right underneath the front bumper, which, as you can see, electrically closes the hood. Now, this model here, being a Launch Edition, is painted in the Launch Green. This is an included color. It kind of looks similar to the Forest Green, although I think the Forest Green has a little bit more of a green hue. This is slightly a gray green. You can see the styling of this truck. I personally love the way this thing looks. I mean, some of you have commented that this thing looks a little bit strange, although compared to the Tesla Cybertruck, which I have yet to see in person, the Rivian has a much more conventional but still futuristic look. You can see I really like the Rivian logo. It has some yellow accents behind the logo to show this is the quad motor version. The paint has a nice metallic fleck to it. The body panels, for the most part, align pretty well. You can see the headlights of the vehicle have 4 individual LEDs for the LED low and high beams. LED turn signals, the LED daytime running light. This LED light bar here serves as a charge status bar, which it glows green when the vehicle is charging to show that it's charging up, and it actually will add more green as the vehicle's battery gets a little bit more fully charged. You also have these LED fog lights down here with 2 individual LEDs, and then down here you can see this is the tow hooks, which the yellow is actually not standard. This is a little bit of an aftermarket part that my friend Tori actually added, which I actually think looks good. It kind of gives the truck, again, a little bit of a contrast in the front fascia with the tow hooks. Underneath here, you will find underbody skid plates, thicker ones, especially if you guys go for the off-road package. But overall, the design of this truck definitely stands out. Even though it's been on the market for 2 years, I love the way this thing looks. I think Rivian nailed it in terms of the design. Now, in terms of the size of this vehicle, it's only available in 1 cab configuration. You basically can get it with a crew cab body style with a 4.5-foot bed. The bed is definitely short. It's about a half a foot to a foot shorter than most of its rivals. At 217 inches long with a 135.6 inch long wheelbase, this is essentially the same size as the GMC Hummer EV pickup truck. It's around 6 inches shorter than a Tesla Cybertruck, but a little over a foot shorter than something like an F-150 Lightning. So keep in mind, this truck looks big, but it's actually smaller than most of its rivals. Now, the charge port door is located here. You open it by touching that little area over here, which, as you can see, the charge port door is power operated, although right now the vehicle is locked. It has a walkaway lock and unlock feature, so I have to unlock the car and then touch this again, and that will open up the charge port door. You can see, I love the way it looks as it power folds and flips out of the way, and you can see this truck still uses the CCS combo connector. So you have a J1772 plug with the CCS combo. Rivian will eventually adapt the NAC Tesla charger. I'm assuming that'll be sometime in 2025. This truck will accept a maximum of 220 kilowatts on a DC fast charger. Rivian will eventually ramp that up to around 300 kilowatts at some point. It has an onboard 11.5 kilowatt hour charger. So on a level 2, it'll take about 13 hours to recharge this battery pack. Remember, it's a 135 kilowatt hour pack. The standard pack, which is also available now, has 105 kilowatt hours. The max pack, which is pricey at 16 grand, is around 180 kilowatts. This model here will do up to 289 miles of range. That number has been downgraded to 274 on the 2024 version of this truck. But overall, love the way that looks, love the way it's integrated. You can see this particular one here that my friend has the all-terrain package for $3,800, which includes the 20-inch all-terrain wheels. You can also get a black finish, and then the calipers you can see are painted yellow or gold. That's to show that you have the quad motor version. These Pirelli P0 Scorpio all-terrain tires have been developed uniquely for the Rivian R1T. It's riding on a 275 by 65 R20-inch tire. The adaptive air suspension, this is with it in standard mode now. This has around 8.6 inches of ground clearance. In this mode, you can also drop it down to a kneel mode. That'll drop the ground clearance below 8 inches. And then in the highest mode, this truck will offer just under 15 inches of ground clearance. So again, serious off-road capability. Love the adaptive air suspension. It also has a fully independent suspension because remember, this is not a body-on-frame architecture. It has a large skateboard platform underneath. Now you can see the mirrors. They are body colored. They are electrically folding. There are a total of 11 cameras surrounding the vehicles, and I believe like 15 ultrasonic sensors. Again, there's a camera here, a camera there, a camera all around the vehicle. The door handles, they are the pop-out variety, which they pop in and out as you walk and approach the vehicle. You can see there are some functional openings here. The Rivian badge has a yellow undertone to show that you have the quad motor version. And then up here, you can see all of them come with this panoramic glass roof, which doesn't open and doesn't actually have an electric sunshade, but it is very dark tinted. And then of course, over here along the side panel, this is one of the cool features about the Rivian R1T, is this gear tunnel. So if you push this button here, it's on both sides. You actually have to come in here and open it up, but this platform is actually strong enough for somebody like me to actually stand on it. But you can see in the gear tunnel here, you offer, Rivian says there's 11.7 cubic feet of storage space. That's actually very generous. That's actually bigger versus the front. You can easily put like a few sets of golf clubs in here. It's also washable. There's actually a 12-volt power outlet in here, which is nice. It's also on the other side. And you can also get an accessory where you can get like a pull-out camper thing where it has basically like a stove top and whatever built in for those of you who want to go camping where you can cook your meals. That's a pretty pricey option. It's available as an accessory from Rivian, but without it, you can see it offers a pretty good amount of storage. Now, looking at the rear of the truck, you can see the design is also equally interesting with the full light blade LED taillight, essentially, where this also acts like as a charge indicator back here where it'll glow green when you guys have it plugged in. You can see it spells out Rivian at the back. The R1T badge here has a yellow line to show that you have the quad motor version. If you guys go for the dual motors, it'll just be silver along with the brake calipers being silver. To open up the bed, you can see, push this button here, the bed will automatically fold down. It's not technically full power, but it gives you that ability to kind of fold it down. You can see this is a 4.5-foot bed, like I said. This particular model here has a 1,300-pound payload capacity. The max is up to 1,760. At 4.5 feet, the bed is definitely short, but it's still relatively usable. You can see it's a composite bed, so there's no need for a bed liner and whatnot. You can see there's also an actual built-in air compressor there, which is a great touch. You also have your actual power outlets here. There are 2 more, so there's a total of 4 because there are 2 in the gear tunnel as well. And then just like the Honda Ridgeline, there's a nice little storage area here that's lockable, that's also has a drain plug, so you can use that to store wet and dirty items or use that as a cooler. So that's definitely a really cool touch. Love that feature in the Ridgeline. Happy to see it here on something like the R1T. But overall, to close the bed, I thought you'd be able to just push this button here, but you actually have to close it manually. But overall, you can see the bed is certainly still usable. And for those of you who want, there's also a manual or power retractable tonneau cover. This particular one here has accessory bike mounting points. But I think for those of you who want the tonneau cover, I think it's also a good upcharge. I think Rivian charges like $1,800 for it on their website. So obviously the exterior of the Rivian R1T definitely turns heads, but the interior is an even better place to spend time inside because Rivian really pulled out the stops to deliver a premium interior environment. Now, before we get inside, let me show you guys the key fob. Now, this key fob is very, very interesting looking. It looks like one of those little hooks that you would buy from like REI, for example, to go hiking in. And that's because it essentially is. You can see you can actually open this up to get this thing, hooked onto your keys or hooked onto your pants. This fob looks really cool. I love the fact that it's actually yellow, and I love the fact that it has these rubberized buttons on it where you can essentially do lock, unlock. You can open up the front and open up the tailgate of the truck. When you lock the truck as well, it has a really cute little bird chirp, just to show how outdoorsy and adventurous this truck is. When you unlock the truck, it doesn't make the same noise, but again, very, very cool feature. I believe Rivian also lets you use your phone as a key, or they also offer a key card for those of you who are owners of this vehicle. Now, as you can see, the door handles, they pop in and out. This vehicle also has a walkaway auto lock and unlock feature. The mirrors will also electrically fold. Because I already opened or unlocked the door, you can see the door handle already pops out. I will say that I don't love this door handle. When you pull it, if you don't hold onto it tight enough, you can easily kind of lose grip of it. So it's a little bit slippier than I would like. Now, looking at the interior, you can see this particular one that my friend has an optional Ocean Coast interior with the dark ash wood. This interior essentially is an extra $2,000 extra. The seats, you can see they are a vegan leather material, so it's a faux leather. They also feel really high quality. For a fake leather, I have to say they feel really nice. They look expensive. I love the Rivian kind of embossed, or the Rivian badge on the back of the seat. Seat back, of course, the headrests are also adjustable. The seats adjust, I believe, in 14 different ways. They are heated and ventilated, which are standard on all trims. And you can see the steering wheel is also a flat bottom design. It's also a heated wheel. In terms of the door panel materials, remember, this is a startup car company, and you can see panel gap fitment and material quality here is excellent. You can see there's real leather stitching along the upper door panel. There's this beautiful dark ash wood trim, which you can actually feel the actual wood behind it. This is a real wood material, more fake leather, of course, on the door panel here. On this lower portion, there's a nice grab handle here. The window controls are one touch for all 4. They feel really high quality and tactile, which is great. There's a 19-speaker sound system, which Rivian calls it their elevation sound system. It's technically engineered by Meridian. It has 1,100 watts of power, and it sounds good for those of you who are audiophiles. It's a really nice, place to enjoy your music. The pedals, you can see, are aluminum accented. There's this really interesting floor mat here, which is almost like an all-weather floor mat, but they do offer a full all-weather floor mat. If you guys prefer that, you can see it does get a little bit stained if you guys plan on using this vehicle in off-road situations. But the interior gives you a great first impression. Now, stepping inside, you can put it into like a kneel mode in the suspension to kind of help you get in and out of the truck because it doesn't have any running boards. This is with it in standard mode, and it does require a little bit of a hike to get up in here, but as I get in and shut the door, I have to say, doesn't have the most solid sounding thunk. There's a little bit of a rattle in the door. I didn't see anything in the actual panel, but I did hear a slight rattle there when I closed the door. So that doesn't really give me a great first impression, but overall, once you're in here, you can see the tech in this vehicle is impressive. Now, once I get inside, you basically just have to have the key fob on you, put your foot on the brake, and that chime actually even sounds like Tesla. So it's kind of interesting to me to kind of hear it because it feels like I'm getting into a Tesla vehicle. Let me go ahead and turn down the climate control so the fan's not kind of blasting at me. But looking at the rest of this cabin, you can see there are plenty of things to like about this interior. Now, first of all, when you put your foot on the brake, it says ready to show that the vehicle is ready to drive. In terms of the materials, you can see that same beautiful leather stitching is carried over onto the upper dash, more of that lovely dark ash wood trim, which if you guys don't want the wood, Rivian also offers the Ocean Coast, where it kind of gives you a different material here on the actual dashboard. There's some metallic accent trim, and then you can see here the interior is dominated by two LCD displays. There's a 16-inch display right here in the center stack, which is it's Rivian's own software, native software, and then a 12-inch display here in the instrument panel. So I love the fact that there is a 12-inch display. The steering wheel itself has power tilt telescoping adjustments. It's also a heated wheel, and to adjust the wheel, you actually have to go into the profile here on the screen and go to steering wheel, and then you have to use these buttons here to adjust the tilt and the telescope function of the wheel. So again, this is very similar to Tesla. It's kind of the same thing for the side mirrors. You use these little controls here to adjust the side mirrors on each side of the vehicle. Once you adjust it, you basically tell it to remember that. You do a user profile, and it's going to always remember that, so you don't have to necessarily mess with it later on if you're an owner of this vehicle. Some people have complained that they wish that there was a hard button. I think it's not necessarily needed if you're an owner of the vehicle and you have it set to your actual profiles. Now, looking at the rest of this screen here, what it is lacking is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. However, if you guys go to the native phone system, you can see it basically has your phone kind of built in. It'll pull up and populate your favorite contacts and whatnot. It'll show your contact information, and it'll show, again, a keypad. I still would prefer an actual CarPlay integration, but it does also nicely integrate your music. So you can see here, here's one of my playlists, and it integrates here. It shows the album art. So, and it also has Spotify built in. It has Alexa built in as well, where it gives you voice commands. So once you kind of get used to the native system, it works fairly well. I mean, the GPS function in this car, check that out, guys. The map quality is fantastic. It also has, you know, availability of the charging network, where you can basically find the Rivian charging network, which they continue to build up, or some of the Electrify America ones, Tesla, of course. It also will find and use or find chargers on your way on waypoints when you have a route actually inputted in. So that's definitely a nice touch. The speed and the software and the processing power of this is definitely very impressive. Love that. Going to this little display here, this is where you're going to access your different drive modes. There are a total of 9 drive modes in this particular version of the truck. You can see there's an on-road mode where there's 4. There's all-purpose, which is basically normal. There's a conserve mode, which is unique to the quad motor. This decouples the rear electric motor and essentially turns it into a front-wheel drive truck for better range and efficiency, of course. Sport mode is going to give you, of course, the quickest acceleration time. There's also a snow mode, and then there's also an off-road mode here, which is going to give you 5 additional drive modes. It also will raise the suspension up to the highest. There's all-terrain. There's also a rock crawl mode. There is a soft sand mode, a rally mode, and of course, a drift mode. Because the vehicle has quad motors, it'll allow you to kind of go sideways in this vehicle, which is a really cool feature. I'm not going to be able to demonstrate that now because, again, this isn't my truck, but there are videos, plenty of videos out there of owners doing that if you guys want to see that. Now over here you can see your climate control function. This vehicle does have like a dual zone climate control function. It also includes a pet mode. The vents you can see are adjustable in the actual screen. You can see once I turn them on, these little motorized blades, they move around and you can adjust the airflow based on the vents. You can also adjust the heated and ventilated seat function from here, along with the heated steering wheel function. This is very similar to Tesla, and for those of you who don't like that, tough luck. Rivian, again, goes with something like this, which is very futuristic and very modern. You can be tapping on that. You can adjust all your different controls within the interior. There is some ambient lighting in here. Your cabin lights, of course. You can also open and close the hood, the gear tunnel, and fold the mirrors and adjust everything from over here. So again, everything is controlled via the screen. Push that button here. That's where it gives you the cameras. You can also access your backup cameras, your tow cameras and whatnot, your bed camera, and then your front camera, along with your side cameras as well. The resolution and quality of the cameras, I will say, I've seen better. I'm a little disappointed by the quality and the resolution, but it's nice that Rivian gives you so many different cameras. This one in the bed actually gives you the best quality and resolution for me, but overall you can see all that surround view camera is actually going to be standard equipment, which is nice. So overall, this is easy to use. And again, it has user profiles built in. It has a built-in LTE hotspot. But for those of you who want wireless phone integration, that's where Rivian doesn't offer that. The Tesla Cybertruck is kind of similar to this, although I haven't seen one in person. It technically has a bigger 18.5-inch display, but again, 16-inch display here is plenty huge. Now, looking at the rest of the center console area here, you can see There's a big storage area here, although it's not really well integrated or thoughtful because it's not covered storage, so all your stuff is kind of exposed. No glove compartment here. I'm surprised to see there is no glove compartment. There is a wireless phone charging pad here, as you can see, but this one is actually an aftermarket system that my friend put in. The actual charging pad is underneath here, and it's apparently, from what he told me, it's not very good. Your phone kind of slides around. So this one that he put in is aftermarket and also has a built-in magnet, which is nice. There's a padded center console here, more leather accents over here. Your cup holders are actually a pop-out unit here that pull out. You can see it's not very well designed. I will say that they feel a little bit flimsy. I imagine if you guys put like taller, bigger cups in here, or at least like a mug, it probably won't fit very well. So I think Rivian should have done a better design with the cup holder design here. In terms of, instead of a glove box, instead you kind of have to open this up, and you can see it reveals a very deep storage area that's carpeted, of course, which is nice. Your USB charging ports are in there, in addition to, of course, the wireless phone charging pad. The seats, as you can see, it's a vegan leather material, but they are comfortable and supportive. I have to say that these are really nicely well-bolstered seats, and the heat and ventilation function works well. They also look really futuristic. They feel really upscale, not a squeak or rattle again from this portion of the seat and whatnot. In terms of the visibility, there's some really good sightlines throughout the truck because, again, it's a nice boxy design. I love the actual suede Alcantara material on the actual headliner, which is nice. You can see the side mirror, or the sunshades, whatever, they are also covered in that same Alcantara. The roof, you can see, it doesn't actually open up to vent air, but it is very darkly tinted, which is good because there's no retractable shade. It gives you basically a nice view out of the roof of the vehicle. There's also LED map lighting in this interior, along with some cameras and whatnot. But overall, the interior is very tech-focused, tech-oriented, but it also has a premium luxury feel that I wasn't expecting, especially from a new car company like this. The steering wheel itself, I love the flat bottom design. I will say the horn doesn't sound great. It has a puny sounding horn, so I imagine some owners are going to replace that. But overall, this is a really nice interior, especially for a vehicle manufacturer that is as new as Rivian. Moving to the back seat of the Rivian R1T. Now, this truck only comes with one cab configuration, a crew cab, and because this is not quite as big as something like a Lightning, you are going to have a little bit less space back here in terms of legroom, but it is more versus what you're going to find in a lot of mid-sized gas trucks. Rivian says there's around 36.6 inches of legroom back here, which is actually pretty good. This is a good like 4 inches more versus a lot of the mid-sized competitors like GM with the Canyon, of course, the new Toyota Tacoma. You can see material quality back here is pretty similar to what the front seats have, with the same fake leather material with the actual stitching, the beautiful dark ash wood, the metallic accents and whatnot, the metal accents around the speakers as well. And then you can see in terms of the seats themselves, they do offer a little bit of under storage. If you pull this open, you can see my friend's been using this for a good amount of stuff, but it does offer a good amount of covered storage here. The seat here doesn't actually fold down or out of the way. This rear window also doesn't open up, which is what you're going to find in some competitors. But overall, let's go ahead and get back here. This floor mat, I really love the look of this. Again, it's a really interesting kind of woven design. It kind of looks like a dish drying rack, or a dish drying mat, I'm sorry. But as I get back here, close the door, you can see in terms of the space, this is where I essentially have the seats to drive for my driving position. And for somebody my height, there's a good amount of foot space. There's a completely flat floor here, which is nice. You have 2 storage cubbies along with these little straps where you can hook a few things on, along with another hook over here. You have a USB charging port in each of the head restraints, which is nice. You have rear seat air vents. You have your own set of rear seat climate control. So I'm sorry, technically this car has a quad zone climate control, not a dual zone. You also have 3 level heated seats back here, along with 2 more USB charging ports, which is great. And then if you fold this down here, you can see there's an armrest that gives you a little bit more storage and your cup holders and whatnot. So overall, the back seat of this vehicle, if you need to use it as a family vehicle, the R1T actually offers a good amount of space. In terms of the headroom, you can see for somebody my height, 5'7", even though there's a big panoramic glass roof, it does kind of eat into the headroom space. So if you're over 6 feet, you might find this to be a little bit lacking. But overall, the back seat space here is a lot more generous versus some of the other mid-sized gas-powered trucks. So it's been a long time coming, but we are finally behind the wheel of the all-new Rivian R1T. It's kind of hard to believe this car has been on sale in the US for a little over a year. Deliveries, I believe the first delivery started at the end of 2021, and I have been waiting to get my hands on this truck or the SUV. I was supposed to have an R1T scheduled last summer in 2023, but that kind of fell through. So instead, I borrowed it from my good friend Tori, who actually lives in the York, PA area. He traded in his Model 3 Performance, which I actually did a review on the channel almost 2 years ago. for this truck last year. But this is basically a 2023 launch edition with the quad motors. It's essentially mechanically similar to a 2024 version, of course, minus a couple of software tweaks and a couple of small changes here and there. But this model should be the quickest accelerating truck I've ever tested, which that claim is being held currently by the GMC Hummer EV with its 1,000 horsepower. This has slightly less at 835, but Rivian claims you should be able to get to 60 in 3 seconds. So we've got a 95% state of charge for the battery pack. We have it in sport mode here. This truck doesn't have launch control, but if you brake torque it, that's where it should give you the quickest time. Remember, this has the all-terrain tires, so it is going to slow it down slightly, but let's go ahead and see what we can get. Tunnel vision. All right, there you have it, guys. This is the quickest accelerating truck I have tested so far year to date, because we just got 3.13 seconds there. That's 0.2 seconds faster versus the quickest time that I got in the WTF mode in the GMC Hummer EV pickup truck. It's also about almost a full second quicker than something like the Ram TRX or the Ford Raptor R. So obviously there's an even quicker truck out there, the Tesla Cybertruck, which maybe I'll get one to review if I can borrow one from a viewer, or if you guys know somebody or you own a Cybertruck, hit me up in the comment section below or send me an email. I'd love to be able to get an opportunity to film one of those vehicles. But let's go ahead and see what we can get here. I'll just floor it from a stop this time and see what we can get. 3.2 seconds there. This is with it more going slightly uphill. That's without brake torquing it. So all day long in this truck, you're gonna get in the low 3-second range, 0 to 60 time, which is just absolutely bonkers. It's insane. This truck could be even faster if it didn't have the all-terrain tires. If Rivian would do an actual dedicated launch control, it could also be a sub 3-second car or truck. I'm not sure why Rivian doesn't do a launch control feature on this truck, but you do notice initial throttle tip-in, there is a slight bit of hesitation. That's because the computer is actually limiting the power at full stop, or at a dead stop and full throttle, because it's trying to keep the wheel spin from being too excessive. But this thing with its 4 electric motors, the first electric vehicle that I've driven with 4 electric motors, so there's one individual motor at each wheel. It really just gives this truck a different kind of feel, especially if you're going to be off-roading, because there are 9 different drive modes in this truck. You get 4 extra drive modes because you have the quad motor system. That's essentially for off-roading, because this truck offers true torque vectoring where it can power each individual wheel. The dual motor version, which has motors developed in-house by Rivian, essentially has open diffs because it only has one motor at the front. At the rear, it doesn't have the true torque vectoring capability of this truck. Now, in terms of the performance, I've heard that the performance version of the dual motor R1T is actually only about 0.2 to 0.4 seconds slower than the quad motor. And it makes you wonder, is it even worth it to get the quad motor? You know, you could save yourself $3,000 by not going with it. But I mean, obviously, if you want the ultimate tunnel vision every time your foot goes to the floor, and that's what makes this thing so unique, so cool. I love that feeling. I mean, yes, there are so many other electric vehicles out there that are so fast, but this truck, for a vehicle that is essentially from a new manufacturer, Rivian is about as fresh as they come, essentially, for a car manufacturer. I am very impressed with the overall feel and just the package that this truck is giving you. It really feels like a really well-made vehicle that's premium. Just because we can, I want to try it here one more time. 3.1, that's without brake boosting it. That's essentially on the same level ground as our first run. So yes, this truck is insanely fast, but hey, I would love to get my hands on just the dual motor and the dual motor performance, because those trucks are no slouch. Rivian says 4.5 for the base version and then 3.5 for the performance version. But let's go ahead and switch the drive mode here. I'm going to go into the all-purpose mode. This is essentially where the truck's air suspension will lift back up instead of being in the low setting. You can also switch the regen braking to standard or high. In high mode, this truck actually gives you about 0.21 Gs of deceleration. It's one of the strongest regen braking that I've felt, and that's because of the 4 electric motors that essentially turn into generators when you lift off the throttle. So you barely have to use the brakes in this vehicle. Most of you will probably be happy with the standard regen function, works well. You can also change the ride quality to be a soft or a stiff setting. The ride quality in this truck is actually very good. Remember, this has a 4-wheel independent suspension with adaptive air suspension. It also has a very stiff structure. This is one of the best riding trucks I've ever driven. And again, it really shows you the attention to detail and the tuning of Rivian and their chassis engineers. Because I'm impressed. Even in stiff mode with these all-terrain tires, it rides really well. You can go to soft mode, of course, you can change that out. But overall, most of you are going to be driving it in all-purpose mode. It's going to give you a really nice balanced ride quality. In terms of quietness, however, these all-terrain tires do create a good deal of tire drum. I definitely hear a lot of that humming noise on the outside. I recommend going with the 21s or the 22-inch street tires if you guys rarely plan to take this vehicle off-roading. There's also a snow mode and a conserve mode. When you go to the conserve mode, this is where the truck actually disconnects the rear motors. So the rear motors, they stop powering the truck and it essentially becomes a front drive vehicle. This is also where you'll see the range significantly improve on this truck. It's impressive to me actually what this range is showing when you're actually driving this vehicle in the real world, even in these colder climates. Now, what you just heard there is the lane departure alert. Now, I have it basically set in all the settings that my friend Tori set it in because this is his personal truck. I did notice that the driver assistance stuff, the chimes and whatnot, they are a little bit excessive. The lane keep assist works well, however, in keeping you in the lane. I just don't love the beeps. I would personally turn the beeps off, and to engage the adaptive cruise control with traffic jam, you just basically pull down on the gear selector twice, just like a Tesla, and the vehicle will keep itself centered in the lane. It'll drive for you in traffic to a full stop. And I've tested it very briefly and it works pretty well. But remember, Rivian is always constantly making software updates to improve the driver assistance function, to improve the range off the bat. In terms of just comfort, these seats are also very comfortable and supportive. Love the fact that every R1T comes with heated and ventilated seats, a heated steering wheel. In terms of the tech, the two displays look fantastic. A 16-inch display here, a 12-inch display here. I find that the overall interface works well, but you do have to get used to kind of going into the touch controls here to adjust everything, which if you guys are coming from a Tesla, this is gonna feel very familiar. I do like the fact that Rivian does give you a few more actual hard buttons versus Tesla. But overall, it does have a slight learning curve there, but if you're an owner of this vehicle, you're kind of getting into it and you'll know exactly what to do. Now, in terms of the range, because I'm not able to test this vehicle out for a full week, I had to ask my friend Tori, who owns this car, what he actually gets. At 95% charge, it was showing in conserve mode around 305 miles of range. Now, the EPA rates this particular truck at 289 miles. The 2024 version has been downrated to 274 miles. My friend Tori said that in his, actual testing, he's been getting very close to what the actual range computer is showing. So on a full charge, this thing is showing around just under 290 miles of range. That's what the EPA says. That's pretty impressive. Remember, we've got the large battery pack here that comes standard with the quad motor versions. If you guys go for the street truck tires version with the 21-inch wheels, you'll get up to 314 miles of range. The most range is what you're going to find in the dual motor with the max battery pack. So that model will do up to 410 miles of range, which is actually pretty impressive. That range figure is basically more than what you're going to get from a Lightning, but it should be on par with what the upcoming versions of the GMC the GMC Sierra EV and the Silverado EV are going to manage. But for a new car company like this, Rivian has a lot of their bases covered, and in terms of the build quality, I didn't hear a squeak or rattle from this interior. It has a premium upscale feel that you kind of expect that has, for a truck that has a, near six-figure price tag. But overall, this is my first time driving the Rivian R1T. I'm hoping to get my hands on a dual motor and an R1S sometime later in 2024. But for those of you who are lucky enough to own this vehicle, or if you've never driven one, from a new car company, I have to say this is probably the most impressive feeling vehicle. It's right up there with the new Lucid Air, and it really shows you that even though they're a new car company, they really know how to kind of stick it to the legacy automakers in giving us an all-electric truck that feels very premium, very upscale, and very luxurious. So after finally getting a chance to get behind the wheel and spend a little bit of time with the all-new Rivian R1T, I have to say there are a lot of new electric trucks coming to market, and this model here, being the very first vehicle, really set the benchmark up pretty high. It's kind of interesting to me because I didn't get a chance to drive this truck until now, but I did get a chance to drive, of course, the Ford F-150 Lightning and the GMC Hummer EV pickup truck. I'm hoping sometime this year I'll be able to drive the Silverado and Sierra EV, and hopefully I can get my hands on a Tesla Cybertruck, because as you guys know, this segment continues to grow, and the Rivian R1T set the bar pretty high. I mean, as you guys saw, the quad motor version is just overkill for most people. I'm looking forward to eventually getting my hands on the dual motor and the dual motor performance, because I do think that those versions of the truck will have plenty of power and even more range. For those of you who are looking for the highest range, 0 to 60 in just over 3 seconds makes this the quickest accelerating pickup truck out on the road that I've tested. And I imagine if you guys go for the 21 or 22-inch street tires, you should be able to easily match that 3-second claim that Rivian says. Of course, when you guys go for the quad motor version, the slowest version of the truck will still do it in 4.5 seconds, which is kind of crazy to think. In terms of the interior, for a brand new startup electric vehicle company, I'm very impressed with the build quality. I mean, yes, there are some panels I noticed that don't fit particularly well. My friend Tori also said he had to take it back to the Rivian service department to have a couple of panels adjusted here and there so it fit properly. The interior itself, however, has really high quality materials. I love that ocean coast interior with the gray actual real wood. The software in terms of the infotainment system, the 16-inch display looks very impressive. I love the fact that Rivian also gives you a 12-inch display in the instrument panel. That's something that Tesla doesn't do because they technically don't believe, or Elon Musk doesn't believe, in an actual instrument panel or a heads-up display. The software behind the infotainment system, in the short time that I spent with it, was relatively easy to use, but it does have a little bit of a learning curve. Now, for those of you who have come from a Tesla, or you really love the fact that this thing doesn't have very many buttons, it's got a minimalistic design, you'll kind of get in this thing, and if you own it, you'll kind of get used to the overall interface. But if you're kind of just jumping in and out of cars, which is what most journalists tend to do, you'll start to complain about how it lacks a lot of buttons. But overall, I think once you live with it, you'll get used to it very quickly. I do wish that Rivian would do Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but the integrated phone for the vehicle in the native software works perfectly fine. The embedded GPS also will find charging stations along your route, which is similar to, of course, to what Tesla does, which is very important when you're driving an EV in terms of the long cross-country stuff. In terms of driving this vehicle out on the road, I'm not going to get a chance to take this vehicle off-road. On the road, this is one of the best driving pickup trucks I've ever driven. It has a car-like feel, but with the all-terrain tires, it's kind of interesting because it makes you think that you're driving an actual truck. But in terms of the steering, it's one of the best steering feels that I felt in an EV truck. The suspension also will squat it down low, and it also gives you a pretty flat, cornering dynamics when you guys go around corners. It really hides the 7,000-pound curb weight when you're going around corners, which is not something that you can say about the F-150 Lightning or the GMC Hummer EV, which both of those trucks just feel like trucks. They feel huge, they feel massive. This feels very car-like, of course, but it also still gives you a lot of the truck capabilities. If you guys actually plan to do truck things, this is where the Rivian could be considered more of a lifestyle truck, because I think the bed is too small if you actually need to haul some stuff in the bed. And for those of you who plan to tow, this will tow up to 11,000 pounds, but expect the range to likely be cut in half for those of you who actually plan to tow longer distances and you actually come close to that 11,000 pound capacity. But overall, if you guys are interested in considering the R1T, Rivian has been doing well in terms of sales. The company managed to produce a little over 17,000 R1Ts in the US in 2023. I think deliveries were around 14,000 deliveries, which is a pretty good amount considering the price tag of the R1T. Now, this truck now starts at around 73,000 bucks if you guys go for the dual motor with the standard range battery pack that offers up to 270 miles of range. If you guys want to step it up to the large battery pack, it's around $5,000 extra. Or I'm sorry, $6,000 extra. The dual motor performance is $5,000 extra. That ramps the horsepower from 533 to 665. That model will do 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, which is not that much slower than this truck here, the quad motor version, which starts at around basically $3,000 more than the dual motor. So 73 plus $5,000 plus $6,000 plus $3,000, you're looking at around 85,000 bucks. This particular one here I'm showing you is the launch edition model. For the off-road package, it also includes with those 20-inch wheels and the ocean coast interior. All in, this one with destination comes to $93,800. I know, almost $100,000, and you could easily equip an R1T to be over 100 grand, depending on, of course, if you want to add in that max battery pack, which is an extra $16,000. It's basically 10 grand more versus the large battery pack. I personally would skip that because I think it's a little too pricey. I think the sweet spot for this truck is probably the dual motor performance. With the large battery pack, you can get that for right around 88,000 bucks. In all honesty, it's only $3,000 more to go to the quad motor. It's a lot less expensive than I thought it would be. So kind of keep that in mind if you guys want the ultimate truck. It's really not that much more expensive, but if you guys want something that's going to qualify for the tax credit, the R1T technically does still qualify as long as you can keep the price under $80,000. However, if it's under 80 grand, it's still going to only qualify for about half that at $3,750 because of the mineral sourcing for the battery pack. It's going to get harder, of course, as we go further on because the government is making the actual tax credits to be attainable. They're getting harder because they want the battery minerals to be, again, more and more sourced with countries that the US works with. But overall, at around 94,000 bucks, I think this truck is actually a pretty good deal. It is, of course, less capable in terms of doing truck things versus an F-150 Lightning, but I think I prefer driving this thing a lot more. It still has some great, cool, techie features to it. It has some amazing off-road capability. It has amazing street performance. And really, for a car company that is basically brand new, and this is their first vehicle right out of the gate, I am very impressed with what Rivian is offering here with the R1T. So I'm hoping I can get my hands on other versions, and of course the R1S, the SUV version. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my very detailed and long, comprehensive overview on the brand new 2024 Rivian R1T. If you're also looking to see the latest vehicles I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.